What if the key to happiness lies not in gaining more, but in needing less? Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." These words might seem counterintuitive in a world that constantly tells us to chase more success, more possessions, more validation. But what if the secret to a truly fulfilling life isn't about accumulating, but about letting go? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy practiced by thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, offers a radical yet deeply practical perspective. True happiness comes from simplicity and inner peace, not from the external things we often believe will make us whole. It's about finding contentment in what you already have, rather than endlessly pursuing what you don't. In this video, we'll explore the Stoic principles of detachment, presence, and resilience, ideas that reveal why less is often more. These timeless teachings aren't just philosophical musings, they're tools for living a life of clarity and calm, even in the face of chaos. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed by the demands of modern life or simply searching for a deeper sense of fulfillment, Stoicism has something profound to offer. So, if you've ever wondered how to find peace in a world that never stops pushing you to want more, stay with me. Together, we'll uncover how the wisdom of the Stoics can transform the way you think, live, and find happiness starting right here, right now. Happiness isn't found in what you own, but in how you think. This is the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, a belief that challenges the very foundation of how society defines fulfillment. Today, we're bombarded with messages that equate happiness with material wealth, status, and external achievements. Buy the latest gadget, drive the fanciest car, and you'll finally feel complete. But the Stoics saw through this illusion. They believed that true happiness doesn't come from what's outside of us, but from what's within. Take Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, who famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This isn't just a poetic statement, it's a radical rethinking of what it means to live well. The Stoics argued that external things, money, fame, possessions, are indifferent. They're neither good nor bad in themselves. What matters is how we use them, or whether we let them control us. Think about it. How often have you chased something? A promotion, a new phone, a bigger house, only to find that the joy it brings is fleeting. That's because happiness tied to external things is conditional. It depends on circumstances outside your control. The Stoics, on the other hand, believed in cultivating an internal sense of peace and contentment, something no one can take away from you. Consider the modern consumerist mindset. We're taught to accumulate, to upgrade, to always want more. But how much of what we own actually adds value to our lives? How many of our possessions sit unused, gathering dust, while we continue to crave the next thing? Now, contrast that with the Stoic approach to minimalism. It's not about owning nothing, it's about owning only what serves a purpose, what aligns with your values, and what doesn't become a source of unnecessary attachment. Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on one thing you own that doesn't truly bring you joy. Maybe it's a piece of clothing you never wear, a gadget you barely use, or even a habit of spending money on things you don't need. Why do you keep it? What would it feel like to let it go? This isn't about deprivation, it's about making room for what truly matters. The Stoics remind us that happiness isn't something we acquire. It's something we cultivate through our thoughts, our choices, and our perspective. And that's a power no one can take away from you. What if you could let go of what you can't control and find freedom in the process? This is the heart of Stoic detachment, a concept that might sound simple but carries profound implications for how we live our lives. At its core, detachment isn't about indifference or apathy. It's about redirecting your energy toward what's truly within your power and releasing the frustration that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. The Stoics believed that true peace comes from understanding this distinction, and it's a lesson that still resonates deeply today. Take Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers and a Roman emperor who faced immense challenges during his reign. He once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This quote captures the essence of detachment. It's not that external events don't matter, it's that our power lies in how we respond to them. When we stop trying to manipulate outcomes and instead focus on our own actions, thoughts, and attitudes, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress and disappointment. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Imagine someone who's been working tirelessly for a promotion, pouring all their energy into achieving this goal. They've done everything within their control, performed well, built relationships, and taken on extra responsibilities. But when the promotion doesn't come, they're devastated. This is where Stoic detachment can help. By recognizing that the final decision was outside their control, they can shift their focus to what they can do, continue to grow, learn, and contribute regardless of the outcome. This mindset doesn't mean giving up ambition. It means finding peace in the process rather than being consumed by the result. Now think about your own life. Is there an area where you've been clinging to an outcome, hoping for a specific result? Maybe it's a relationship, a career goal, or even a personal project. Take a moment to reflect. What would it feel like to let go of the expectation and simply focus on what's within your control? This isn't about giving up. It's about embracing the freedom that comes when you stop trying to force life to go a certain way. It's about finding joy in the effort itself rather than being tied to the outcome. Contentment is a choice, not a condition. The Stoics understood this deeply, teaching that happiness doesn't come from external circumstances but from how we choose to see and engage with the world around us. At the heart of this philosophy is the idea that joy is found not in chasing more but in appreciating what we already have. It's about finding richness in simplicity and fulfillment in the present moment. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present." This isn't just a poetic statement, it's a call to action. The Stoics believed that by focusing on the here and now rather than longing for what we lack, we can cultivate a sense of peace and satisfaction that's unshakable. It's about training ourselves to see abundance in the ordinary, whether it's the warmth of the sun, the comfort of a meal, or the presence of loved ones. But how do we actually do this in practice? One powerful way is through the daily practice of gratitude. Take a moment each day to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as a good night's sleep, a kind word from a friend, or even the quiet stillness of the morning. By consciously acknowledging these moments, we shift our perspective from what's missing to what's already here. This small habit can have a profound impact, helping us reframe our mindset and find contentment in the everyday. Think about it. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? Pause for a moment and let those come to mind. This simple exercise isn't just about listing items. It's about training your mind to notice and appreciate the good that's already present in your life. Over time, this practice can transform how you approach challenges and setbacks, reminding you that even in difficult times, there's always something to be thankful for. The Stoic approach to contentment isn't about denying ambition or ignoring life's struggles. It's about recognizing that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. By choosing gratitude and focusing on the present, we build a foundation of happiness that isn't dependent on external achievements or possessions. It's a mindset that allows us to thrive, no matter what life throws our way. What would your life look like if you removed the unnecessary? This isn't just a question about tidying up your closet or clearing out your garage. It's about something deeper, something the Stoics understood well. Minimalism at its core isn't just about owning fewer things, it's about creating space for what truly matters. And when you think about it, this idea aligns perfectly with Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed in focusing on what's essential, stripping away distractions, and finding clarity in simplicity. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." But what does freedom really mean here? It's not about having endless choices or an overflowing schedule. True freedom, according to the Stoics, comes from letting go of the things that weigh us down, whether they're physical possessions, emotional baggage, or even unnecessary commitments. When we pare life down to its essentials, we're left with a clearer sense of purpose and more room to breathe. Take, for example, the story of a modern-day minimalist who decided to simplify their life. They started by decluttering their home, getting rid of items they hadn't used in years. But as they let go of the physical clutter, they noticed something unexpected. Their mind felt lighter too. They began to say no to social obligations that drained their energy, and instead they focused on activities that brought them joy and fulfillment. Over time, they found that by removing the unnecessary, they had more time and energy to devote to their relationships, their passions, and their personal growth. This is the kind of freedom Epictetus was talking about, a life unburdened by excess. So, how can you start embracing this Stoic approach to minimalism? It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Begin small. This week, challenge yourself to declutter just one area of your life. Maybe it's your workspace, your phone, or even your calendar. Ask yourself, does this add value to my life? Does it align with my priorities? By taking these small steps, you're not just clearing out physical space, you're creating mental and emotional space as well. And who knows, you might just find that, like the Stoics, you're uncovering a deeper sense of freedom and peace. Resilience isn't about avoiding hardship, it's about growing through it. The Stoics believed that challenges aren't something to fear or run from. They're opportunities to strengthen our character and deepen our understanding of what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, every obstacle we face is a chance to practice resilience, to adapt, and to emerge stronger than before. Think about it. When life throws us a curveball, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or even defeated. But the Stoic perspective flips this script entirely. Instead of seeing difficulties as setbacks, they're seen as stepping stones. They're the very things that shape us, teach us patience, and help us cultivate inner strength. This mindset doesn't just help us endure life's storms, it helps us thrive within them. Take the example of Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who began his life as a slave. Despite the immense adversity he faced, he didn't let his circumstances define him. Instead, he used his struggles as a foundation for his teachings, showing others how to find freedom within their own minds, no matter the external conditions. His life is a powerful reminder that resilience isn't about having an easy life. It's about finding meaning and growth in the midst of difficulty. So, how can we apply this in our own lives? Start by reflecting on a past challenge you faced. Maybe it was a job loss, a personal failure, or a moment of unexpected change. What did you learn from that experience? How did it shape who you are today? The Stoics would argue that even the toughest moments carry valuable lessons that can guide us toward a more fulfilling and resilient life. By embracing this mindset, we not only learn to live with less, but we also discover that less can actually be more. When we stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as opportunities, we unlock a deeper sense of purpose and happiness. And that's the true power of Stoic resilience. When was the last time you truly lived in the now? not just going through the motions, but fully immersed in the moment, aware of your breath, the sensations around you, the thoughts passing through your mind without judgment. For the Stoics, this practice of presence is not just a suggestion, it's a cornerstone of happiness. They believe that the past is already gone and the future is not guaranteed. The only thing we truly own is this very moment. Seneca once said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." What he's pointing to is a trap we all fall into, constantly waiting for the next thing, the next milestone, the next achievement, while letting the richness of the present slip through our fingers. The Stoics teach us that happiness isn't found in some distant future or by clinging to what's already behind us. It's right here in the now if we're willing to show up for it. Think about it. How much of your day is spent replaying past regrets or rehearsing future worries? The Stoics would argue that both are exercises in futility. The past is unchangeable and the future is uncertain. What we can control is how we engage with the present. This doesn't mean ignoring the past or failing to plan for the future. It simply means not letting those things rob us of the only moment we truly have, the one we're living in right now. So how can we put this into practice? Start small. Try spending just 5 minutes today doing nothing but focusing on the present. Feel the weight of your body in your chair. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Observe the sounds around you without labeling them as good or bad. This simple act of mindfulness aligns perfectly with Stoic principles. It's not about escaping reality or numbing yourself to life's challenges. It's about fully embracing what's here right now without resistance. What if, instead of chasing happiness in some far-off place, we found it in the ordinary moments, the taste of your morning coffee, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of laughter? The Stoics remind us that these moments are where life happens, and when we learn to be present, we discover that happiness isn't something we need to chase. It's something we can choose, one moment at a time. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. These words, often attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, capture a truth that the Stoics understood deeply. For them, simplicity wasn't just about living with fewer possessions or cutting out distractions. It was a way to achieve clarity and peace in a chaotic world. By stripping away the unnecessary, Stoics believed we could focus on what truly matters: our values, our purpose, and our ability to live virtuously. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This simple yet profound advice reminds us to start with clarity. Before we act, we must first understand who we want to be and what aligns with our principles. Simplicity, in this sense, is about removing the noise, the endless distractions, the overthinking, and the clutter, so we can see the path ahead with clear eyes. Think about your daily routine. How much of it is filled with tasks or habits that don't serve your goals or values? The Stoics would argue that trimming these excesses isn't just practical, it's essential for mental clarity. For example, consider your morning routine. Do you start your day scrolling through social media, or do you take a few moments to reflect on what you hope to accomplish? Simplifying this part of your day could mean replacing that aimless scrolling with a short meditation or journaling session, setting the tone for a more focused and intentional day. The beauty of simplicity lies in its power to free us. When we remove the layers of complexity, we create space for what truly matters. It's not about living a minimalist life for the sake of it, but about making deliberate choices that align with our values. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one habit in your life that you could simplify? It might be something small, like decluttering your workspace, or something larger, like reevaluating how you spend your free time. The act of simplifying, even in small ways, can lead to greater focus, peace, and ultimately, a life more in tune with Stoic principles. What if striving for perfection is actually holding you back? The Stoics had a radical idea about this one that might change the way you see success, failure, and even yourself. They believed that the relentless pursuit of perfection isn't just unrealistic, it's a trap. Instead, they championed progress, no matter how small or imperfect. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." Think about that for a moment. Dancing implies grace, precision, and flawless execution. Wrestling, on the other hand, is messy, unpredictable, and demands resilience. Life, according to the Stoics, isn't about flawlessly executing every move. It's about getting back up, adapting, and moving forward, even when things don't go as planned. Consider the story of someone who spent years chasing the idea of being the perfect parent. They read every book, followed every expert's advice, and yet they felt like they were failing every single day. It wasn't until they embraced the Stoic idea of progress over perfection that they found peace. They realized that showing up, being present, and trying their best was enough. Their kids didn't need a perfect parent. They needed a loving, imperfect one who was willing to grow and learn alongside them. This isn't just about parenting, though. It's about every area of life where we put pressure on ourselves to be flawless: our careers, relationships, even our hobbies. The Stoics remind us that imperfection isn't a flaw, it's part of being human. So here's something to reflect on. What's one imperfection in yourself that you've been trying to hide or fix? What if, instead of resisting it, you embraced it as part of your journey? After all, it's in those imperfect moments that we often find our greatest strength and growth. Enough is a decision, not an amount. This simple yet profound idea lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that true joy doesn't come from accumulating more possessions, more status, more experiences, but from recognizing when we have enough and finding peace in that realization. It's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to sufficiency, from endless striving to grateful acceptance. Seneca put it perfectly when he said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In other words, poverty isn't about what you lack, it's about the endless hunger for what you don't have. But how do we define what's enough? For the Stoics, sufficiency isn't a fixed number or a specific lifestyle. It's a state of mind. It's about setting boundaries on our desires, not because we're denying ourselves pleasure, but because we're choosing to focus on what truly matters. Imagine standing in a field on a sunny day. You could spend hours chasing after every butterfly, never fully enjoying the moment. Or you could sit still, breathe deeply, and appreciate the beauty around you. The Stoics would argue that the second approach, choosing to be present, to be content with what's already here, is where real happiness lies. Practically, this might look like setting limits on material possessions, saying no to unnecessary distractions, or even simplifying your daily routines. It's not about living a life of deprivation, but about creating space for what brings genuine fulfillment. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly at peace? Was it when you bought something new? Or was it when you took a step back and realized you already had everything you needed? So, what does enough mean to you? Is it a certain level of comfort, a sense of purpose, or simply the ability to enjoy the present moment? Take a moment to reflect on this. Because once you define what's enough for you, you might find that the pursuit of more becomes less important, and the joy of enough becomes all the more powerful. What could you achieve if you mastered your impulses? It's a question that cuts to the heart of the Stoic philosophy, and it's one that Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, would have asked with urgency. He once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Think about that for a moment. True freedom, according to the Stoics, isn't about doing whatever you want whenever you want. It's about having the self-discipline to align your actions with your values, to resist the distractions that pull you away from what truly matters. Stoicism teaches us that self-discipline isn't about deprivation or punishment. It's about clarity and focus. When you master your impulses, you're no longer a slave to fleeting desires or external pressures. Instead, you become the author of your own life, making deliberate choices that reflect your deepest principles. This kind of discipline isn't easy. It requires constant practice, but the rewards are profound. You gain a sense of inner stability, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're living in alignment with what you believe. So how do we build this kind of discipline? It starts with small, consistent actions. Take your daily routine, for example. Maybe you've been meaning to wake up earlier, to carve out time for reflection or exercise. Or perhaps you've struggled to stay focused at work, constantly checking your phone or getting sidetracked by minor tasks. These are opportunities to practice Stoic self-discipline. Begin by identifying one area where you can exercise greater control. Commit to it, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day. Over time, these small acts of discipline compound, strengthening your ability to stay focused on what truly matters. The Stoics remind us that self-discipline isn't just about resisting temptation, it's about creating space for what's meaningful. When you say no to distractions, you're saying yes to your goals, your relationships, and your peace of mind. So, where in your life could you practice greater discipline? What's one small step you could take today to align your actions with your values? The journey begins with a single choice, and that choice is yours to make. Letting go isn't losing, it's gaining freedom. This is the heart of Stoic wisdom when it comes to attachments. For the Stoics, clinging too tightly to outcomes, possessions, or even relationships often leads to unnecessary suffering. Why? Because so much of life is beyond our control. When we attach our happiness to things we can't dictate, we set ourselves up for disappointment, frustration, and anxiety. It's not about abandoning what matters to us, it's about recognizing that our peace doesn't depend on external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." Think about that for a moment. The event itself isn't what causes distress, it's our reaction to it, our attachment to how we think things should be. The Stoics teach us to focus on what's within our power, our thoughts, our judgments, and our actions. Everything else, it's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. Consider the story of a young entrepreneur who spent years building a business only to see it fail. At first, he was devastated, tied to the idea that his worth was linked to his success. But over time, he began to see things differently. He realized that his value wasn't in the business itself, but in the lessons he learned, the resilience he built, and the relationships he forged along the way. By letting go of his attachment to the outcome, he found a deeper sense of peace and even gratitude for the experience. So, what are you holding onto too tightly? Is it a goal, a possession, or maybe even a relationship? Take a moment to reflect on whether your attachment is serving you or if it's weighing you down. Because sometimes the act of letting go isn't about losing something. It's about making space for something greater, freedom, clarity, and a life lived on your own terms. What if your problems are actually opportunities in disguise? This is the heart of the Stoic approach to perspective, a powerful tool that allows us to see challenges not as burdens, but as chances to grow and strengthen our character. The Stoics believed that happiness isn't about avoiding difficulties. It's about learning to face them with clarity and resilience, and the key to doing that lies in how we choose to view the world around us. Take Seneca's famous words, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he's pointing to is the idea that our struggles are rarely as overwhelming as we make them out to be. It's our mindset, our way of framing the situation, that amplifies the pain or frustration we feel. But when we shift our perspective, we begin to see that these challenges are not roadblocks, they're stepping stones. They're opportunities to practice patience, courage, and wisdom. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you're stuck in a job that feels unfulfilling. At first glance, it might seem like a dead end, but what if you reframed it? Instead of focusing on what's lacking, you could see it as a training ground for developing skills, building resilience, or even exploring new passions on the side. Suddenly, the same situation becomes a platform for growth rather than a source of frustration. This is the power of perspective at work. So, how can you start applying this in your own life? Think about one challenge you're facing right now. Maybe it's a strained relationship, a financial setback, or even a personal goal that feels out of reach. Now ask yourself, what's the opportunity here? What can I learn from this? How can this situation help me grow? By reframing the problem, you're not just solving it, you're transforming it into something meaningful. The Stoics remind us that happiness isn't something we find by avoiding life's difficulties. It's something we cultivate by changing how we see those difficulties. And when we do that, we unlock a deeper, more enduring kind of joy. One that isn't dependent on external circumstances, but on our own ability to see the good even in the hard moments. Gratitude turns what we have into enough. This simple yet profound idea lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy and its approach to happiness. For the Stoics, gratitude wasn't just a fleeting emotion or a polite gesture. It was a daily practice, a tool to reframe our perspective and build resilience. By focusing on what we already possess rather than what we lack, we shift our attention away from endless desires and toward the abundance that already surrounds us. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it beautifully. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. This isn't about ignoring life's challenges or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it's about recognizing that even in the midst of difficulty, there are always reasons to be grateful. The Stoics believed that gratitude anchors us in the present moment, helping us find contentment regardless of external circumstances. So how do we put this into practice? One of the most effective ways is through gratitude journaling. It's a simple habit. Each day, take a few moments to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. Sometimes it's the smallest things, like a warm cup of coffee in the morning or a kind word from a friend, that remind us of life's richness. Over time, this practice trains your mind to notice and appreciate the good, even when it feels overshadowed by the challenges of the day. Why does this work? Gratitude rewires our brains. It shifts our focus from scarcity to sufficiency, from what's missing to what's already here. And when we consistently practice this, we build a sense of inner stability. We start to see that happiness isn't something we chase after. It's something we cultivate within ourselves through the way we choose to see the world. So here's a challenge for you. Before this video ends, pause and write down 3 things you're grateful for today. It doesn't have to take long, just a moment to reflect on what's already good in your life. You might be surprised by how much it shifts your perspective, even in the smallest way. Because in the end, gratitude isn't just about feeling good, it's about recognizing that even in the chaos of life, there's always something worth appreciating. What if your happiness depends on your choices, not your situation? This is the core of Stoic philosophy, a profound shift in perspective that can transform how we experience life. The Stoics believed that while we can't always control what happens to us, we always have control over how we respond. And it's in that response, in the choices we make, where true freedom lies. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic thinkers, put it simply: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Think about that for a moment. No matter how chaotic or unfair life may seem, your thoughts and actions are still yours to command. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a practical tool for living. When we focus on what we can control our choices, we stop feeling like victims of circumstance and start feeling empowered. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting. You can't control the traffic, but you can control how you react. You might choose to stay calm, use the time to listen to something uplifting, or even practice gratitude for the chance to slow down. Or you could choose to let frustration take over, honking and stressing until you arrive. Both are choices, but one leads to peace while the other only adds to the chaos. This is the Stoic approach, recognizing that every moment is an opportunity to choose wisely. And it's not just about small, everyday decisions. This philosophy applies to life's bigger challenges too. When faced with a setback, a job loss, a breakup, or even a health issue, the Stoic mindset reminds us that while we can't control the event itself, we can control how we interpret it and what we do next. This is where true resilience is built. By focusing on our choices, we reclaim our agency and find a path forward, no matter how difficult the situation. So here's a question for you. What's one choice you can make today to improve your happiness? It doesn't have to be something grand. Maybe it's choosing to let go of a grudge, to focus on what you're grateful for, or to approach a challenge with curiosity instead of fear. The beauty of Stoicism is that it reminds us we always have a choice, and that's where our power lies. Everything changes, and that's okay. The Stoics understood this truth deeply, and it's one of the most liberating ideas they offer us. Life, by its very nature, is transient. Seasons shift, relationships evolve, and even the strongest foundations crumble over time. But instead of fearing this impermanence, the Stoics found peace in it. They saw it not as a flaw, but as a fundamental characteristic of existence. By accepting that nothing lasts forever, they were able to release the grip of attachment and the anxiety that comes with trying to hold on too tightly. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it this way: all things human are short-lived and perishable. This might sound bleak at first, but it's actually a profound reminder to focus on what truly matters. When we stop clinging to the illusion of permanence, we free ourselves to live more fully in the present moment. Think about it. When you truly accept that a moment, a relationship, or even a possession is fleeting, you're more likely to cherish it while it's here. Let's bring this idea into everyday life. Imagine you're sitting with a loved one, sharing a meal. Instead of worrying about what's next or stressing over how long this moment will last, you simply allow yourself to be there, fully present. You notice the laughter, the warmth, the taste of the food. You appreciate it because you know it won't last forever. That's the beauty of impermanence. It teaches us to savor what we have right here, right now. So here's something to reflect on. What's one thing in your life that you might be taking for granted? It could be a person, a place, or even a daily habit. How might your perspective shift if you truly acknowledged its impermanence? By embracing this Stoic mindset, we can find a deeper sense of gratitude and peace, even in the face of life's inevitable changes. What if you could stay calm no matter what happens? What if the chaos of life didn't shake you, but instead you met every challenge with a steady mind and an open heart? This is the essence of equanimity, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that true peace comes not from controlling the world around us, but from mastering our reactions to it. Life will always throw curveballs, some joyful, some painful, but equanimity teaches us to meet them all with the same unwavering balance. At its core, equanimity is about acceptance. It's the practice of recognizing that we can't control external events, but we can control how we respond to them. As Epictetus famously said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about that for a moment. The same event, losing a job, facing criticism, or even experiencing a sudden windfall, can either derail us or become an opportunity for growth, depending on how we choose to see it. Stoics cultivate this mindset by training themselves to view challenges not as obstacles but as lessons. One way they do this is by shifting their perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this?" This simple reframe transforms frustration into curiosity and fear into resilience. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic. You could let the delay ruin your mood, or you could use the time to reflect, listen to a podcast, or simply breathe and be present. The situation hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has. That's equanimity in action. This practice isn't just theoretical, it has real-world benefits. In relationships, equanimity helps us respond to conflict with patience and understanding rather than anger or defensiveness. In decision-making, it allows us to think clearly under pressure, avoiding impulsive choices driven by emotion. By staying calm, we create space for wisdom to emerge. So, how can you start practicing equanimity? This week, try choosing one stressful situation. Maybe a disagreement with a loved one, a tight deadline at work, or even a moment of self-doubt, and approach it with this Stoic mindset. Instead of reacting immediately, pause, take a deep breath, ask yourself, "What can I learn here?" or "How can I respond with clarity and calm?" Small steps like these can lead to profound shifts over time. Equanimity isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about finding a deeper sense of stability, even in the midst of life's storms. And when you do, you'll discover that the key to happiness isn't in having more. It's in needing less frustration, less resistance, less attachment to outcomes. Because when you can stay calm, no matter what happens, you've already won. In silence, we find ourselves. This simple yet profound truth lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that moments of quiet reflection were not just pauses in the chaos of life, but essential tools for reconnecting with our inner selves. When the noise of the world fades away, we're left with the clarity to see what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." And he was right. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of peace. Think about it. How often do we truly sit with ourselves, free from distractions? The Stoics understood that silence is a gateway to self-awareness. It allows us to step back, observe our thoughts, and untangle the emotions that often cloud our judgment. In those quiet moments, we can ask ourselves the hard questions. Are my actions aligned with my values? Am I living with purpose? Silence doesn't just give us answers, it helps us hear the questions we've been avoiding. But silence isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a practical tool for reducing stress and regaining balance. In today's fast-paced world, where notifications and obligations constantly demand our attention, carving out even a few minutes of stillness can feel revolutionary. Imagine starting your day with just 5 minutes of silence, no phone, no noise, no distractions. It's a chance to ground yourself, to reset your mind before the chaos begins. Or perhaps at the end of a long day, you sit quietly, reflecting on what went well and what you could improve. These small acts of intentional silence can have a profound impact on your mental clarity and emotional resilience. So here's a challenge for you today. Find 5 minutes to sit in silence. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture, just a quiet moment where you can breathe, reflect, and reconnect with yourself. Notice how it feels to let the noise fade away, even for a short while. You might be surprised at what you discover when you simply stop and listen. After all, as the Stoics remind us, the answers we seek are often found not in the world around us, but within the quiet spaces of our own minds. What if peace comes from accepting reality as it is? This simple yet profound question lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. For the Stoics, true happiness isn't about controlling every outcome or bending the world to our will. It's about embracing what is beyond our control and finding serenity in the midst of life's unpredictability. Imagine standing in a storm. You can't stop the wind or the rain, but you can choose how you respond to it. That's the power of acceptance. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." This insight reveals how much of our distress comes not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. When we fight against what we cannot change, we amplify our suffering. Acceptance, on the other hand, allows us to let go of that resistance and find clarity in the present moment. Think about a situation in your own life where you felt stuck or frustrated. Maybe it's a setback at work, a strained relationship, or even something as simple as being stuck in traffic. The Stoics would remind us that these external events are outside our control, but our response to them is entirely within our power. By practicing acceptance, we can shift our focus from what's going wrong to how we can adapt and grow from the experience. Here's a practical way to apply this. The next time you face a challenge, pause and ask yourself, what part of this can I change and what must I accept? By distinguishing between the two, you can direct your energy where it truly matters toward actions and attitudes that align with your values and goals. This shift doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to passivity. It means choosing to engage with life on your own terms, free from the weight of unnecessary resistance. So, here's a question to reflect on. What's one area of your life where you could practice acceptance today? It might be something small, like letting go of a minor inconvenience, or something more significant, like coming to terms with a situation you've been struggling to change. The act of acceptance isn't about erasing difficulties, it's about transforming your relationship with them, finding peace in the midst of life's inevitable challenges. Humility is the foundation of true strength. For the Stoics, humility isn't about diminishing oneself or shrinking away from challenges. It's about recognizing our place in the larger tapestry of life. It's the quiet acknowledgement that we don't have all the answers and that there's always more to learn. This mindset, far from being a weakness, is a source of profound wisdom and connection. As Epictetus once said, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. When we approach life with humility, we open ourselves to growth, to understanding others, and to seeing the world with greater clarity. Stoicism teaches us that humility is a tool for staying grounded. It reminds us that no matter how much we achieve or how much knowledge we accumulate, we are still part of a vast, interconnected universe. This perspective helps us avoid the traps of arrogance and entitlement, which can alienate us from others and cloud our judgment. Instead, humility allows us to approach every situation with an open mind, ready to listen, learn, and adapt. It's not about self-deprecation, it's about self-awareness. Think about how humility can transform relationships. When we let go of the need to always be right or to prove ourselves, we create space for deeper connections. Humility fosters empathy because it encourages us to truly listen to others, to value their perspectives, and to appreciate their experiences. It shifts the focus from me to we, building bridges rather than walls. In personal growth, humility acts as a mirror, helping us see our flaws and limitations without judgment, so we can work on them with patience and determination. Consider this: where in your life could you practice greater humility? Is there a situation where you've been clinging to your own viewpoint, unwilling to consider another's? Or perhaps a moment where you've struggled to admit you were wrong. Humility isn't always easy. It requires courage to step back and acknowledge our imperfections. But when we do, we unlock a deeper sense of peace and connection, both with ourselves and with the world around us. What if a few minutes of reflection could change your life? For the Stoics, reflection wasn't just a habit, it was a cornerstone of their philosophy, a way to grow, find clarity, and live a life aligned with their deepest values. Imagine ending each day not with chaos or distraction, but with a moment of calm introspection where you could sift through the noise and focus on what truly matters. That's the power of reflection, and it's a practice that's as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive." While this quote speaks to morning gratitude, it also hints at the Stoic practice of reflecting on the day ahead and the day behind. For the Stoics, reflection wasn't about overthinking or dwelling on mistakes, it was about learning. It was about asking yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? How can I improve tomorrow? This kind of deliberate self-examination helps you grow, not just as a person, but as someone who lives with intention and purpose. So, how can you put this into practice? Let's start with something simple, an evening reflection. At the end of your day, take just 5 minutes to sit quietly and replay the events of the day. Ask yourself 3 questions: what went well, what didn't go as planned, and what can I learn from both? This isn't about judging yourself or beating yourself up, it's about observing, learning, and preparing to do better. Think of it as a mental debrief, a way to process your experiences so you can move forward with clarity. Tonight, why not give it a try? Spend 5 minutes reflecting on your day. You might be surprised at how much insight you gain, not just about your actions, but about your priorities, your values, and the kind of life you want to live. After all, the Stoics believed that true happiness comes from within, and reflection is one of the most powerful tools we have to tap into that inner calm and wisdom. So take a moment, pause, and let the practice of reflection guide you toward a life of greater meaning and fulfillment. True joy comes from giving, not receiving. This might sound counterintuitive in a world that often equates happiness with accumulation, more possessions, more achievements, more recognition, but the Stoics saw it differently. For them, the act of giving, of extending kindness and service to others, was a profound source of fulfillment. It wasn't about the size of the gesture, but the intention behind it. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most influential voices, put it beautifully: wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. In other words, every interaction, no matter how small, is a chance to make a difference, not just for others, but for ourselves. The Stoic philosophy teaches that generosity isn't just a moral duty, it's a pathway to inner peace. Why? Because when we give, we shift our focus away from our own desires and insecurities. We connect with something greater than ourselves. It's not about expecting anything in return, it's about the act itself. Whether it's offering a helping hand to a stranger, listening to a friend in need, or simply sharing a kind word, these moments of giving remind us of our shared humanity. They ground us in the present and help us cultivate gratitude for what we have. Think about it. How often do we hold back from giving because we feel we don't have enough time, energy, or resources? The Stoics would challenge that mindset. They'd remind us that generosity doesn't require grand gestures. It's in the small, everyday acts like holding the door for someone, leaving a thoughtful note, or donating a few dollars to a cause you care about. These moments might seem insignificant, but they ripple outward, creating a sense of connection and purpose that money can't buy. So, here's a challenge for you today: perform one act of kindness. It doesn't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. Maybe it's sending a text to check in on a loved one, or volunteering an hour of your time for a local initiative. Notice how it makes you feel. Does it bring a sense of warmth, of lightness? That's the joy of giving, the kind of joy that doesn't fade when the moment passes, but lingers, reminding us of what truly matters. What if patience is the key to lasting happiness? It might sound simple, but for the Stoics, patience wasn't just about waiting. it was a profound way of engaging with life. They saw it as a virtue, a tool for maintaining peace in the face of chaos. In a world that often feels like it's moving at lightning speed, the Stoic practice of patience offers a grounding force, a way to navigate challenges with grace rather than frustration. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." This idea is at the heart of Stoic patience. It's not about passively enduring, but about understanding that meaningful growth, whether in relationships, personal goals, or even self-mastery, takes time. Patience, in this sense, becomes an active choice, a commitment to accepting the natural pace of life without resistance. Think about a time when impatience led to unnecessary stress. Maybe you were rushing to meet a deadline, or perhaps you found yourself frustrated with someone else's pace. Now, imagine approaching that same situation with a Stoic mindset. Instead of fighting against the moment, you pause, breathe, and remind yourself that some things are simply outside your control. By embracing patience, you shift from frustration to clarity, from tension to calm. In relationships, patience can be transformative. When conflicts arise, the Stoic approach isn't to react impulsively, but to respond thoughtfully. By giving yourself and others the space to process, you create room for understanding and connection. Similarly, in pursuing personal goals, patience helps you stay committed without becoming overwhelmed by setbacks. It's about trusting the process even when progress feels slow. So here's a challenge. Choose one area of your life where impatience often takes hold. It could be a project at work, a habit you're trying to build, or even a conversation with a loved one. For the next week, consciously practice patience in that area. Notice how it changes your experience. Does it bring a sense of calm? Does it open up new possibilities? The Stoics believed that patience wasn't just a virtue, it was a path to freedom. And by practicing it, you might just find a deeper kind of happiness waiting on the other side. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage. At first glance, this might seem at odds with the Stoic ideal of strength and resilience, but the truth is, Stoicism doesn't ask us to hide our humanity. Instead, it invites us to embrace it fully, even when it feels uncomfortable. The Stoics understood that vulnerability is not a flaw, it's the doorway to authentic connection and growth. To live a truly meaningful life, we must be willing to open ourselves, to risk being seen, and to confront our fears head-on. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This profound statement reminds us that our inner world shapes our outer reality. If we constantly armor ourselves, hiding behind walls of invulnerability, we miss the opportunity to grow and connect with others on a deeper level. Vulnerability, then, is not about exposing our weaknesses, it's about allowing ourselves to be fully present, honest, and human. It's about showing up even when it's hard, and trusting that this openness will lead to greater understanding and strength. Think about your closest relationships. How often do you hold back your true thoughts or feelings because you're afraid of being judged or rejected? Stoicism teaches us that true courage lies in being honest about who we are, even when it's uncomfortable. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for others to do the same. This mutual openness fosters trust, empathy, and deeper bonds. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting with courage despite the fear. Here's a practical way to apply this in your life. The next time you're in a conversation where you feel the urge to hide or deflect, try sharing something genuine instead. It could be as simple as admitting you're feeling unsure or asking for help when you need it. These small acts of vulnerability can transform your relationships, making them richer and more meaningful. So here's a question to reflect on. Where in your life could you afford to be a little more vulnerable? Is there a relationship that could benefit from more honesty? Or perhaps a fear you've been avoiding that, if faced, could lead to growth? Vulnerability isn't about perfection, it's about progress, and in the Stoic view, that's where true strength lies. What if forgiveness is the key to inner peace? For the Stoics, this isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a practical tool for freeing ourselves from the weight of resentment and emotional pain. Forgiveness, in their view, isn't about excusing someone's actions or pretending that harm didn't happen. It's about releasing the grip that anger and hurt have on our own well-being. Think of it as letting go of a heavy burden you've been carrying for far too long. Seneca once said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." And he's right. When we hold on to anger, we're the ones who suffer most. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to feel its effects. So how do the Stoics approach forgiveness? They see it as an act of self-liberation. By forgiving, we reclaim our peace of mind and refuse to let someone else's actions dictate our emotional state. This doesn't mean we ignore injustice or allow harm to continue. It means we choose not to let those events control our inner world. Imagine a storm raging outside. You can't stop the storm, but you can decide whether to let it disturb the calm within your home. Forgiveness is that decision to close the windows and keep the rain from soaking your floors. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Think about a time when someone wronged you. Maybe a friend betrayed your trust or a colleague took credit for your work. Holding onto that resentment might feel justified, but over time it only eats away at your happiness. Forgiveness allows you to move forward, to heal, and to focus on what truly matters, your own growth and peace. It's not about them, it's about you. And in relationships, forgiveness can be the bridge that mends broken connections, allowing both parties to grow and move forward. Now, here's a question to reflect on. Who is one person in your life that you need to forgive? It could be someone who hurt you years ago, or maybe even yourself for a past mistake. Take a moment to consider how carrying that resentment has affected you. What would it feel like to let it go? Forgiveness isn't easy. It's a practice, a choice we make again and again. But each time we choose it, we take one more step toward the inner freedom the Stoics valued so deeply. The greatest gift you can give is your presence. In a world filled with distractions, where our attention is constantly pulled in 100 different directions, the Stoics remind us that true connection begins with being fully present. It's not about grand gestures or elaborate words, it's about showing up wholeheartedly in the moments that matter. For the Stoics, presence wasn't just a nicety, it was a profound way to honor the people in our lives and cultivate deeper, more meaningful relationships. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This simple yet powerful insight highlights the importance of listening as an act of presence. When we truly listen, we're not just waiting for our turn to talk or formulating a response in our heads. Instead, we're fully engaged, giving the other person the gift of our undivided attention. This is how we build trust, foster understanding, and create space for genuine connection. Think about it. How often do we find ourselves half listening while scrolling through our phones, planning our next task, or letting our minds wander? The Stoics would argue that these distractions rob us of the richness of the moment. By prioritizing presence, we not only deepen our relationships but also enrich our own lives. Being fully present allows us to truly see and appreciate the people around us, to notice the nuances in their expressions, and to understand the emotions behind their words. Here's a practical way to apply this. The next time you're in a conversation, try to focus entirely on the person speaking. Put away your phone, make eye contact, and resist the urge to interrupt or let your mind drift. Notice how this shifts the dynamic, how the other person feels heard and valued, and how the conversation becomes more meaningful. This small act of presence can transform even the most ordinary interaction into something extraordinary. So today, take a moment to reflect. How can you bring more presence into your relationships? Start with one conversation. Be there fully and completely, and see how it changes not only the way you connect with others, but also how you experience the world. Presence is a choice, and it's one of the most powerful tools we have to nurture the bonds that matter most. What if courage is the bridge between fear and freedom? This is the question Stoics invite us to consider as they teach us how to live authentically and fully. For the Stoics, courage isn't about the absence of fear, it's about moving forward in spite of it. It's the virtue that allows us to face life's challenges head-on, to grow through adversity, and to remain true to our values even when it's uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles we fear are often the very things that push us to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Think about it this way: courage isn't just about grand, heroic acts. It's in the small, daily choices, the moments when we speak up for what's right, when we take responsibility for our mistakes, or when we choose to step outside our comfort zones. In the workplace, courage might look like advocating for a new idea, even when it feels risky. In relationships, it could mean having a difficult conversation to foster deeper connection. Every time we act with courage, we're not just overcoming fear, we're building the kind of character that can weather any storm. So, what's one fear you've been avoiding? Maybe it's a conversation you've been putting off, a goal you've been too afraid to pursue, or a boundary you need to set. Take a moment to reflect on this. What would it look like to face that fear with courage? What might you gain, not just in terms of outcomes, but in terms of who you become in the process? The Stoics remind us that courage isn't just a tool for survival, it's the key to living a life of integrity, growth, and true freedom. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, a phrase that perfectly captures the Stoic approach to life. For the Stoics, joy isn't found in accumulating more possessions, chasing endless desires, or complicating life with unnecessary distractions. Instead, it's about stripping away the excess and focusing on what truly matters. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This isn't just a clever observation, it's a profound truth about human nature. The more we chase after things we don't need, the further we drift from the contentment that comes with simplicity. Think about it. How often do we clutter our lives with things that don't bring us real value? The latest gadget, the trendiest clothes, or even the endless stream of social media updates, these things can pull us away from the present moment and create a sense of dissatisfaction. Stoics, on the other hand, practice intentional living. They ask themselves, what do I truly need to live a good life? And more often than not, the answer isn't found in material wealth or external validation, but in inner peace, meaningful relationships, and a clear sense of purpose. Let's take a practical example. Imagine your daily routine. How much of it is filled with activities or possessions that don't serve you? Maybe it's the mountain of unread books on your shelf, the closet full of clothes you never wear, or the hours spent scrolling through content that leaves you feeling empty. Simplifying isn't about deprivation, it's about creating space for what truly enriches your life. When you let go of the unnecessary, you make room for joy, clarity, and focus. So here's a challenge for you. What's one area of your life that could use a little simplification? Is it your schedule, your belongings, or even your mindset? Take a moment to reflect on how letting go of what doesn't serve you could open the door to a more intentional and joyful way of living. After all, as the Stoics remind us, true wealth isn't measured by what we have, but by what we don't need. What if self-awareness is the key to living authentically? For the Stoics, this wasn't just a philosophical idea, it was a daily practice. They believed that true happiness comes from aligning our actions with our deepest values, and that begins with knowing ourselves honestly and completely. Self-awareness in Stoic philosophy isn't about indulging in self-criticism or getting lost in endless introspection. It's about clarity, seeing ourselves as we truly are without the filters of ego or external expectations. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply: first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This quote captures the essence of Stoic self-awareness. It's a two-step process. First, we must define who we want to be, our values, our purpose, our ideal self. Then we must act in a way that aligns with that vision. But here's the catch: you can't skip the first step. Without self-awareness, our actions are just reactions, driven by habits, emotions, or external pressures rather than intentional choice. So how do the Stoics practice self-awareness? It starts with reflection. Each day, they would set aside time to examine their thoughts, emotions, and actions. They ask themselves questions like, did I act with integrity today? Did I let fear or anger dictate my decisions? Am I living in alignment with my values? This practice of honest self-assessment is what allows us to grow. It's not about beating ourselves up for mistakes, but about learning from them and making better choices moving forward. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're faced with a difficult decision at work. Maybe a colleague takes credit for your idea. Without self-awareness, you might react impulsively, driven by frustration or the desire to prove yourself. But if you pause and reflect, you can ask yourself, what truly matters to me in this situation? Is it recognition, or is it maintaining my integrity and professionalism? By aligning your actions with your values, you respond with clarity and purpose, not just emotion. This kind of self-awareness doesn't just improve decision-making, it transforms relationships. When we understand our own motivations and triggers, we can communicate more effectively, resolve conflicts with compassion, and build deeper connections with others. It's like holding up a mirror to our inner world so we can show up more authentically in the outer world. So here's a question to reflect on. Where in your life could you grow in self-awareness? Is there a habit you've been avoiding examining, or a pattern of behavior that doesn't align with who you want to be? Take a moment to pause, reflect, and ask yourself, what would it look like to act with greater alignment in this area? Because the more we understand ourselves, the more we can live with intention, purpose, and ultimately happiness. Great change begins with small steps. For the Stoics, happiness wasn't found in grand gestures or life-altering events. It was cultivated in the quiet, consistent actions of everyday life. They believed that true fulfillment comes from aligning even the smallest choices with your deepest values. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The secret of all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious." What he meant was that the things we often overlook, the routines, the habits, the tiny decisions, are where real transformation happens. It's not about waiting for a moment of inspiration or a stroke of luck. It's about showing up day after day and doing the work that matters, no matter how insignificant it may seem at the time. Think about it. When you focus on small, deliberate actions, you're not just building habits, you're shaping your character. Every time you choose patience over frustration, kindness over indifference, or discipline over distraction, you're reinforcing who you want to be. Over time, these small choices compound into something extraordinary. A single act of courage today might not change the world, but 1,000 acts of courage over a lifetime. That's how legacies are built. Let's make this practical. Imagine you want to live with more gratitude. Instead of waiting for a perfect moment to express it, start by writing down one thing you're thankful for each morning. It might feel small, even trivial, but over weeks and months, that simple practice can shift your entire outlook. Or perhaps you want to be more present in your relationships. Commit to putting your phone away during dinner. These aren't earth-shattering changes, but they're meaningful because they're aligned with your values. And when you act in alignment with what truly matters to you, that's where happiness begins to take root. So let's bring this into your life right now. What's one small action you can take today that reflects your values? Maybe it's taking a moment to listen deeply to someone, or choosing to let go of a grudge that's been weighing on you. It doesn't have to be monumental, just intentional, because when you focus on the small, the big takes care of itself. And that's the Stoic way, finding victory in the non-obvious and happiness in the everyday. So, what does it all come down to? The secret to Stoic happiness isn't found in chasing more possessions, more achievements, or even more time. It's found in the quiet wisdom of realizing that less is often more. Simplicity, presence, and resilience are the cornerstones of this philosophy. By focusing on what truly matters, by being fully present in each moment, and by cultivating the strength to face life's challenges with grace, we unlock a deeper, more enduring kind of happiness. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This powerful reminder calls us to examine how we spend our days. Are we caught in the endless pursuit of things that don't truly fulfill us? Or are we choosing to live deliberately with purpose and clarity? Stoicism teaches us to strip away the noise, to pare down our lives to what's essential, and to find joy in the ordinary. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Where can you simplify? Where can you be more present? And where can you build the resilience to face setbacks with a calm mind? These are the questions that can guide you toward a more meaningful existence. If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How do you practice simplicity in your own life? What Stoic principles have helped you find happiness? Let's continue this conversation together. And if you found value in this video, consider subscribing for more insights on how to live a life of intention, purpose, and peace. Here's to embracing the beauty of less and discovering the happiness that comes